What's up, Domino community? Welcome back to the podcast style video. Today I'm going to be talking about how to make a good domino setup. Now, I asked on Instagram what topics you wanted me to cover in great detail, and Aaron's Does Dominoes said the balance of a good setup. And that really made me think, like, what actually constitutes as a quote-unquote good setup? You know, I'll give my take, and you might think like, oh, I'm gonna give some really concrete tactical advice, like your setups need to have this many tricks and have this many dominoes and use this many colors to make it a good project. But I'm gonna go a different route and throw that out in the garbage and say, from my opinion, that there is no such thing as a good setup. There's no such thing as a quote-unquote good setup, because everything is subjective, especially when it comes down to something that is creative, like building with dominoes. For example, someone could say that my new personal record was great, they loved it, it was so cool, it had many different tricks, but on the other hand, someone else could look at that and say, it failed 5 times, like there were so many breaks, that was not a good setup, it failed. It really depends, like, on the person who's perceiving this artwork. So when someone asks how to make a good setup, I almost can't even give them advice. Like, that's up to the builder themselves to kind of form their own style and figure out what they like and then start building that. Let's say someone who just started out with dominoes set up 100 dominoes on their own without knocking any of them down. Like, even if it's just a line, that is so good for someone who just started out with dominoes. Like, seriously, that is mad impressive. And for that person, that is an incredible win. Now, for someone else who may be more experienced with dominoes, something that's good for them is going to be completely different than someone who may have just gotten into dominoes. You know, another example is someone could be making a world record. Like, for example, the unofficial domino line world record. One person could see that from the outside and be like, oh my god, they broke a world record. Like, that is so cool. That's so good. Like, well done to them. But on the other hand, someone who maybe is a more experienced builder could look at that and say, well, it was just a line. Like, kind of boring. There wasn't much creativity involved in this project. I didn't really think it was that good. Like, all you need is a lot of dominoes, some space, and some time, and, you know, technically, I guess anyone could break that record. That's more of a critical standpoint, but there is some truth to that. I just wanted to talk about this concept of what constitutes as a good anything, really. You know, everyone's perception of art and the way they see the world is so different, and something that actually inspired this podcast series as well is something that Gary Vee said. If you aren't familiar with Gary Vee, I definitely recommend following him at Gary VEE. He will change your perspective in the best way possible. I sometimes have a hard time with work-life balance, and Gary says, I heard in one of his videos, he said, there is no such thing as work-life balance. There's only work-life balance for you. And something about that phrase and the way he said it just really hit me. He goes on to explain how some people, they love 9 to 5s, they love having time off after work to do whatever, but some other people like me would be absolutely miserable not doing anything from 6 o'clock to midnight. It made me really think, like, there's no one way for one person. Everyone has their own individual way of doing things, ways of seeing the world, going about making things and being creative, and I don't think the collective whole can label something as good. Even if something at a distance seems inherently good, like 99% people will think this setup is so good, there is going to be a fraction, maybe a very small fraction of people who might actually believe that it's not that great. And whether or not their reasons are valid is also very subjective. So I wouldn't stress so much about making a quote-unquote good domino setup. Just make something that you're proud of. Make something that you really like, that you want to try out, and that you're proud of. But I would love to hear your take on this topic. Do you think that there's such thing as a good setup? And if so, what is a good setup for you? And if not, I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. So let's have an awesome discussion down below. If you have any other suggestions for me to talk about on this podcast style video series, I would love to hear that, because I definitely want to make more of these audio first videos. I really enjoy making these. I feel like I'm much more comfortable just speaking rather than talking on video. Our featured community member is Green Turtle, who has been very active in the Domino community and has been making some pretty awesome videos, so definitely check out Green Turtle's channel. And as always, I'm Lily Hevish, and keep on building. Also, in case you missed my last video, there is a giveaway going on right now where you could win a free set of H5 Domino creations, so go check out my last video and have fun.